Hello guys, on Voice of Betrayal, where every lie has a voice. What happened last week tore me apart in ways I still can't fully explain. It's like I was walking through life blindfolded, thinking everything was perfect, only to have the blindfold ripped off, revealing a nightmare I never saw coming. My name is Mark, 36 years old, and this is the story of how my wife, Emily, betrayed me with someone I never thought could threaten us, a kid she coached on the local youth soccer team. When we first met, I was captivated by Emily's energy. She was 33, just a few years older than me, but she carried herself like she was already miles ahead in life. Working as an accountant during the day, she would transform at night into this passionate soccer coach, dedicating hours to those kids. I admired that. She seemed to have this genuine spark, a deep care for the community and the children she mentored. At first, I saw it as something to be proud of. I would tell my friends about Emily coaching, and they would say how lucky I was to have a wife so involved and giving. But slowly, I started noticing the cracks. 2 months ago, she mentioned a new player on her team, Tyler. She spoke about him like any coach would, praising his talent, his leadership. "Tyler's got this fire," she said. "He's a natural on the field." Harmless, I thought. But then came the strange comments. One evening, out of the blue, she said, "You know, Tyler has the most striking eyes. I've never seen eyes like his before." I laughed it off, thinking maybe she was just being dramatic. But it sat wrong in my gut. Later, she started coming home late from practice, saying she had to stay to help with paperwork or meet parents. But sometimes, her excuses didn't line up. Her phone, once open and accessible, suddenly became a fortress. She would angle the screen away from me, quickly lock it when I entered the room. The warmth between us started to chill. One night, I came home early from work. Expecting an empty house, I found her on the couch, texting with a smile that made my chest tighten. When she saw me, she quickly locked the phone and said it was just a parent. I didn't want to believe it, but my mind spiraled. My instincts screamed, something was terribly wrong. Then came the moment I found the note, folded inside her gym bag, in messy handwriting, 4 words that stopped my heart: "Can't stop thinking about you." No name, no signature, just that haunting sentence. I followed her to a park where she met Tyler. They sat too close, hands brushing, laughter too intimate for a coach and her player. I needed proof. Real proof. I hacked her phone backup that night and found the messages, flirty texts, pictures that crossed every line, a secret world she built behind my back. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was a public humiliation waiting to explode. I planned my revenge carefully. At the season's banquet, with all parents and players gathered, Emily was to give a speech, the perfect stage. I showed up early with a projector, pretending to help with the highlight reel. Halfway through her speech about mentorship and being role models, I played the messages on the big screen. Gasps, whispers, shocked faces. Emily froze, words stuck in her throat. Tyler ran. I grabbed the mic. "This is who's been coaching your children. This is who I married. And I won't stand for it anymore." Her world shattered in front of everyone. She lost her job, her reputation, and me. That night, I slept for the first time in months. Before everything fell apart, there were signs, subtle, almost invisible at first. But when you look back, those little things scream betrayal. Emily and I had been married 5 years. Not perfect, but stable. Our life had a rhythm: work, dinners, the occasional weekend trip. Her coaching youth soccer was a part of that routine. I admired her for it. She loved those kids, and it felt like a positive thing, something that grounded her. But then, slowly, it changed. One Friday night, I came home from work late, exhausted, craving a quiet evening. The house was unusually dark. No sound of the TV, no music, no chatter. Just silence. Emily was still out at practice. I sat alone on the couch, scrolling through my phone, wondering when she'd get home. That night planted the first seed of doubt. The next day, when she finally got back, she told me about a player on the team, a 17-year-old boy named Tyler. I listened politely as she praised his skills, his leadership. At first, it was all about soccer, and I felt proud she was so involved. But then came the comments that felt off. One evening, while we were sitting on the couch watching TV, she suddenly said, "You know, Tyler has the most beautiful eyes. I don't think I've ever seen eyes like that before. I blinked. That's weird to say about a kid you coach. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm just noticing things. That line echoed in my mind. Why was she noticing those things? Then came the late nights. Before, practice was a couple of hours. Now, she was staying out until 10, sometimes later. She gave excuses, paperwork, parent meetings, extra drills. One night, I came home early, hoping to surprise her with dinner. The house was empty except for the soft glow of her phone screen in the living room. I saw her sitting there, texting with a smile that made my stomach twist. When she saw me, she locked her phone so fast I barely caught the motion. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just a parent," she said, but her eyes avoided mine. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But the feeling in my gut grew worse every day. Those days after I caught her texting that night, everything felt heavy, like a dark cloud hanging over me, pressing down on every thought, every breath. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep properly. Every small sound in the house made my heart jump. Was she coming in? Who was she texting at that hour? What secrets was she hiding? I tried to keep it together at work, but my mind kept drifting back home, to the vague excuses and the secret smiles. I started watching her more closely, like a detective in a bad crime drama. It wasn't me, I swore I'd never be that guy, but the gut feeling was unbearable. Then came the gym bag. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon. Emily had gone out for a run, and I was tidying up the living room. I noticed her gym bag lying by the door, slightly unzipped. Something nudged me, curiosity, maybe desperation. I hesitated. It felt wrong, like crossing an invisible line. But I needed answers. I slipped my hand inside, rifling through the usual: towel, water bottle, sneakers. Then, tucked in the side pocket, a folded piece of paper caught my eye. I pulled it out slowly. The words were written in her handwriting, shaky but unmistakable: "Can't stop thinking about you." No signature. No name. My chest tightened like someone squeezed it with a fist. I sat down, paper trembling in my hand, trying to understand what it meant. Was it a note from one of the parents? Impossible. Someone else from the team? Could it be Tyler? My mind spun with terrible possibilities. That note was proof, or at least a sign, that something was wrong, something deeper than I wanted to face. Later that night, I confronted Emily gently. "Who wrote this?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. She looked away, biting her lip. "It's nothing, Mark. Just a stupid note from a parent thanking me for coaching." But her eyes betrayed her. I wanted to push, demand the truth, but something held me back, maybe shame, maybe fear. So I swallowed my doubts and said, "Okay." But deep down, I knew I was on a path I couldn't turn back from. After finding that note, things between Emily and me became a tense dance, full of unspoken words and half-truths. Every evening, I'd watch the clock tick past her usual return time. 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and still no sign of her. The silence in the apartment grew heavier with each passing minute, suffocating me more than I ever imagined. She always had an excuse ready, rehearsed like a script she was tired of delivering. The team needed extra drills, she'd say, voice calm but with a nervous edge. Or, I had to finish some paperwork for the league. But the details were always vague, no specifics, no stories, just those few words tossed at me like a shield to keep me from probing too deep. One night, my patience broke. I came home unexpectedly early from work, heart pounding with a mix of dread and hope. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd be there early, and we could talk, really talk. But when I stepped into the apartment, the air was thick with secrecy. Emily was on the couch, phone in hand, her face lit up with a smile that I hadn't seen in months, a smile so different from the warmth we used to share. She was texting someone, giggling softly at the screen. When she saw me, her eyes darted away, and she locked the phone with lightning speed, as if hiding something explosive. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though inside I was shaking. She hesitated, then mumbled, "Just a parent asking about the game schedule." But the lie was obvious. The way she avoided eye contact, the tightness in her jaw, the sudden coldness, it was all a silent confession. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with my thoughts. I tried to push away the worst fears, but they clawed at me relentlessly. What was she hiding? Who was on the other end of those texts? Why was the woman I loved turning into a stranger before my eyes? The following days were a blur of anxiety and suspicion. I started checking her social media, her messages when she left her phone unattended. Every new secret made my stomach twist, every vague excuse felt like a slap to my face. And yet, I still hoped, desperately hoped, that I was wrong. But deep down, I knew the truth was coming. And when it did, there would be no turning back. The night I decided to follow Emily was the night everything started to unravel completely. I remember sitting in my car, heart hammering like a drum, hands clammy on the steering wheel. Was I doing the right thing? Was I about to destroy the last shreds of what we had? Fear and anger warred inside me, but the need for answers pushed me forward. She left the house late, slipping out with that same calm, practiced ease that made me sick to my stomach. The darkness outside felt like a curtain hiding the truth I'd been avoiding. I kept a safe distance, careful not to be seen, as she drove across town to a small, nearly empty park, nowhere near the official soccer fields where the team usually practiced. I watched through the windshield as she got out and met him, Tyler. The kid I'd heard so much about. The one she was supposed to mentor. But instead, what I saw was a scene straight out of a nightmare. They sat on a park bench, so close I could see the way her hand slowly reached for his knee. It wasn't a coach and player moment, it was something charged, something forbidden. Tyler smiled, and the warmth in his eyes was chilling to me. She laughed softly, brushing her fingers against his hand like they were sharing some secret I wasn't meant to know. I felt like I was drowning in betrayal. Every cell in my body screamed at me to confront them, to yell, to tear them apart, but I stayed silent. I knew I needed proof, undeniable proof, not just gut feelings and stolen glances. That night was a turning point. I started recording everything, her late texts, the secret meetings, the lies. The woman I'd loved, trusted, shared my life with was living a double life, and it was more twisted than I could have imagined. The following days felt like walking through a haze. I was constantly on edge, watching Emily closely, waiting for the moment she'd slip up. And slip up she did. One evening, after she'd left for her extra drills with the team, I noticed her phone left unattended on the kitchen counter, a rare mistake. My heart pounded, and I hesitated for a moment. Was I crossing a line? But I couldn't ignore this anymore. I picked it up, my hands trembling as I unlocked the screen. Her messages with Tyler were there, and they shredded my heart. Emily, you looked amazing today. Couldn't stop thinking about you. Tyler, same here. Can't wait for tomorrow. Emily, I'll bring your favorite snack, winky face. They weren't just innocent coach-player texts, they were flirty, intimate, and blatantly inappropriate. There were pictures too. Not explicit, but enough to show she was crossing every boundary. I sat there, frozen, the betrayal crushing me like a physical blow. How could she do this? The woman I trusted with everything was hiding the secret, weaving a web of lies around us. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced with thoughts of confrontation, revenge, and escape. But I knew rushing in wouldn't help. I needed a plan, a way to expose her so that everyone would see her true colors. The days after discovering those messages were some of the darkest I've ever faced. Every time Emily smiled or spoke to me, I felt a cold pit in my stomach, knowing it was all a lie. I had to keep pretending, keep playing the supportive husband while the truth ate me alive inside. But I wasn't going to be a victim. Not anymore. I started gathering everything, messages, photos, timestamps. I copied every incriminating text onto a separate drive and made screenshots. I documented late nights, strange excuses, and her odd behavior. I knew that when the time came, I would have to be precise, calculated, and ruthless. One night, I drove by the park where I'd seen them together. Tyler was there, waiting, and Emily pulled up not long after. From a distance, I watched them talk, their body language too close, too intimate. It fueled a fire inside me, anger, sadness, betrayal, and something darker, the hunger for justice, for revenge. I couldn't let her get away with this. I started planning how to expose her, how to make sure everyone saw the truth, the parents, the league officials, even the community that once admired her dedication. The end-of-season banquet was the perfect opportunity. Everyone would be there, parents, kids, coaches. Emily was scheduled to give a speech about mentorship and leadership. The irony wasn't lost on me. In the weeks leading up to the banquet, I volunteered to help with the event's preparations. No one suspected a thing. I brought in a projector, saying I wanted to help put together a highlight reel of the season's best moments. I spent late nights compiling the messages, pictures, and evidence onto a video presentation. The tension in my chest grew with every passing day, the thought of her standing in front of everyone, proud and unsuspecting, while I was about to pull the rug out from under her. The night of the banquet, I felt like I was walking on a knife's edge. My heart was pounding as I waited for her speech to begin. When she stepped up to the podium, the room quieted. Her smile was genuine, confident. And then, I hit play. The screen behind her lit up with the messages, the flirtatious texts, the photos, the proof of betrayal. Gasps filled the room. Parents looked at each other, some clutching their kids protectively. Whispers spread like wildfire. Emily's face went pale. Her microphone shook as she stammered, trying to explain, to deny. But no one believed her. Tyler bolted from the room, the whispers chasing him out the door. I took the microphone, my voice steady despite the whirlwind inside me. This is who you've been trusting to coach your children. This is the woman I married. I won't stand for it anymore. The sound of her world crashing down was the sweetest revenge I'd ever tasted. The room felt charged, as if time had frozen in that moment of revelation. Parents whispered urgently, exchanging worried glances, while Emily stood frozen at the podium, her face drained of color. The weight of what had just unfolded hung heavily in the air. Once I finished speaking, I didn't wait around for any response. The community's judgment was already settling on her like a storm. People who once smiled and greeted her warmly now avoided eye contact, their respect evaporated overnight. Over the next few days, the fallout hit hard. Emily was immediately suspended from her coaching duties pending an investigation. Rumors spread like wildfire, and the local news caught wind of the scandal. The woman who was once the community's shining example of dedication and mentorship, now exposed as a betrayer not only of her marriage but of her role as a guardian to those kids. I received countless messages, some from parents thanking me for exposing the truth, others sending warnings or angry accusations. But none of it mattered. The trust was broken, and the damage was irreversible. Emily's phone calls and texts flooded my inbox, apologies, desperate pleas, promises to change. I ignored them all. My only response was a simple email, the divorce papers. Despite the devastation, I found a strange sense of peace. The months following the banquet were a blur of legal meetings, counseling sessions, and rebuilding my shattered world. I knew revenge hadn't fixed everything, but it gave me back control over my life. Emily's career was ruined. She lost not only her coaching position but also her accounting job when her employer learned of the scandal. The community shunned her, doors closed, friendships ended. I watched as she tried to claw her way back, but the trust she had destroyed was never restored. It was a harsh lesson in how betrayal can unravel everything built on a foundation of love and respect. Life after the storm wasn't easy. I spent months picking up the pieces, learning to trust myself again. But I was determined not to let this define me. I started focusing on my own passions, reconnecting with old friends, diving into work, and exploring new hobbies. I realized that healing wasn't just about forgetting the past but building a stronger future. I also found new purpose in volunteering at a youth center, but this time, I was cautious, always aware of the fine line between trust and betrayal. Most importantly, I learned to listen to my instincts. That nagging feeling, the gut instinct, it's usually right. Looking back, the betrayal cut deep, deeper than I ever imagined possible. But it also taught me resilience, the power of standing up for myself, and the importance of never ignoring the signs. Emily's story was a cautionary tale, a reminder that appearances can be deceiving and that the people we think we know best can sometimes be the ones who hurt us the most. I share my story not for pity or revenge, but as a warning and a lesson. Trust your gut, hold those you love accountable, and never settle for less than respect and honesty.